I've lived in Galesville all my life. The Galesville Community Center is a former Rosenwald school that was built in 1929 as a one-room school. The Rosenwald Schools were built to educate black students in a segregated school. This very schoolhouse where I'm sitting now is where I was first educated from first grade to the fourth grade. And this is where I first received my education. And that's why I have a passion for this school. Heritage is about time, and it brings back memories of growing up and the struggles and the good times, especially with blacks in education. So it helps to educate the younger generation, to let them know where you came from, where you can go, and what you can be.
All right, my name's Heather Erst. I'm working with the Galesville Community Center organization on the launch today of Persistence, Purpose, and Preservation, Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County. And it's my great honor to be here. And we're going to keep the gods with us today, and all good vibes, that our technical aspects of this program are going to work beautifully. We are recording this presentation today, so it will be available on the Galesville Community Center Facebook page once we are finished, and will be available for further viewing. So our program schedule for today is that we're going to start off with some welcomes. We're going to have an overview of the Rosenwald School history, the project description and how it will proceed, Rosenwald School architecture information, the products of this project. What are we actually going to create with this as we move forward? We're going to have a public call to action, and we're going to go over some of the most asked questions that we think that you all will have in our audience and as we move forward with the project. And then we're going to take some questions from the audience. So as we are live on Facebook, please put your questions in the chat. And we have someone moderating that today, and we'll be getting those as we get to the end of the program. And then we'll thank our supporters, and we will adjourn. So at this time, it is my great honor to introduce Gertrude Makel, who is the president of the Galesville Community Center Organization, Inc. And Gertrude, if you will come to the podium, please.
Good morning. Welcome to Galesville Community Center Organization. We are so honored to actually have several VIP visitors. We have Senator Elfreth with us. We have the County Executive Steuart Pittman with us. And we also have Tim Leahy from Four Rivers. And of course, Vincent Molden from the County Executive's Office. That's really dear to our heart. On a regular basis, we reach out to him and request support letters, because you know, as you apply for grants, support letters are required. And we also reach out to Dylan in Senator Elfreth's office for support letters. So we are ever so grateful, because we do request a lot of funding. We don't always get it, but you know, you have to keep trying. We've been trying for this project for maybe 3 or 4 years, and we finally received funding. So we are grateful. We are seeking additional funding because we have some historic documents that we have to get done, and so we digitize. So we're seeking funding to digitize those documents. But thank you so much for joining us, and again, we are grateful to all of you, whether you joined us in person or on Facebook Live. I'll be back.
Hello, I am House Speaker Adrienne Jones, and I'm pleased to take part in this monumental project documenting the history and legacy of Anne Arundel County's Rosenwald Schools. Education and its history in Maryland are important to me because education played a significant role in my family's history. My very own aunt, Margaret Williams, in 1937, was represented by attorney Thurgood Marshall in a case to desegregate Baltimore County Public Schools, and although Marshall lost that case, it became a precursor to the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision. Like my aunt's story, the story that this documentary provides gives Marylanders a closer connection to Maryland's history and the experience of being educated as an African American in the Jim Crow era. Thank you to the Galesville Community Center, Maryland Heritage Areas Authority, Maryland Humanities, and Anne Arundel County for telling a story that isn't often told and few people know about. I look forward to the release of this project, the knowledge and the insight that so many Marylanders will gain from this documentary. Thank you.
Good morning. It is such a wonderful moment to be here for this incredible telling of an important piece of our history as a community. My name is Sarah Elfreth. I have the great privilege of being the senator from District 30, which is Annapolis and all of South County, here to just join in the celebration. And today's all about celebrating preservation, but also telling that important story of Rosenwald Schools across the county, but what it has meant, what this Rosenwald School has meant to the community of Galesville. And it's rooted in education, it's rooted in equity, it's rooted in opportunity for everybody in our county. That was the founding history of Rosenwald Schools, and particularly what it has meant for this community. I'm also here because I'm so proud that the state has been a partner to the Galesville Community Center. From the beginning, former Speaker Mike Bush stood up and helped to fund the preservation of this very building. Gertrude mentioned that we continue to be partners wherever we can. And I do have a citation on behalf of myself and Delegate Seth Howard. Not that there's any more room on these walls, Gertrude, to fit a citation, but I hope it does mark our continued commitment to be a partner in, again, the preservation, the storytelling, and the celebration of our incredibly rich history. So I'll just read the citation, and we'll find a frame later for it and a wall space. Okay. Be it hereby known to all, our sincerest congratulations are offered to the Galesville Community Center Rosenwald School History Project in recognition of the launch of Persistence, Purpose, and Preservation Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County, a project that will document the history and contributions of those associated with the Rosenwald Schools, presented on this 26th day of February from myself and Delegate Howard. And if there's ever a testament to Rosenwald Schools and what they can produce, it's Miss Gertrude for her continued commitment to our history and our community. So thank you all so very much for joining us on a Saturday. And when it's safe and you're able, I encourage you to come down and see this beautiful building. You really cannot get an impression from this video. You have to visit yourself. And I would be remiss if I didn't introduce my friend and colleague, County Executive Steuart Pittman.
Thank you, Senator Elfreth. And thank you, everybody here at the Galesville Community Center. This is not my first time in this building, but every time I walk in, I'm overwhelmed by a sense of the history, but also appreciation for what the Galesville community has done to maintain this building and to preserve it. It's a beautiful space. So today, we stand in one of the original Anne Arundel County Rosenwald Schools, built to educate the African American children of our county because our students, black and white, were not allowed to attend school together. That time was recent enough that many in our community lived this segregated life. We cannot change the past, but we can learn from it now and in the future. And that's why this project we are launching today matters. We will collect and document the history of the schools, the personal memories, the photos, the textbooks, and yes, even some of the report cards of the teachers, students, and staff of Anne Arundel County's African American schools. Rosenwald schools are highly significant, not just because they're old buildings, but because they tell a story of a community that for too long was silenced in our history books. These schools are important architecturally, but they are more than just physical reminders of an era of segregation and Jim Crow laws. They are lasting markers of empowerment, education, and pride within African American communities across this county. These schools are of national significance, and Anne Arundel County is privileged and honored that so many survive within our jurisdiction. It is our responsibility to preserve them and to tell their stories. Many of the school buildings were and are still central spaces within historically Black communities. Today, many have become much-needed community resource centers. Galesville Community Center, where we stand, hosts historic and educational events and is a gathering place that ties the Galesville community together. The Lula Scott and Churchton schools are county-owned, and they serve the public in Shadyside with food pantries, vaccination clinics, and as a Head Start location. The Severn Queenstown School operates as a daycare for the local community, and the Freetown School is home to the Freetown Improvement Association. Marley Neck is currently working to become a daycare and community resource and is part of one of the oldest Black congregations in the county, or is home to, Hall United Methodist Church. And while the Ralph Bunche Community Center and School was not technically a Rosenwald school, although some would argue that maybe it is, that is a location in South County where I personally have invested a lot of time, and my staff has as well. We have invested, with the help of our senator and the Maryland General Assembly, with some funding to patch up to keep that building from falling apart. And just last week, the board of the Ralph Bunche Community Center made a decision that they were going to work with the county to completely rehabilitate this building and provide services there for generations to come. So it is thrilling to me to pursue the preservation and the restoration of these schools. I believe that we are in a moment in history when finally we are reckoning with the past in our country and in our communities. Anne Arundel County was a majority African American county at a time when a majority of those African American residents were enslaved. And they built this county, they built our roads, they built many of our buildings. And to tell the history of that community since that time through these schools is exactly what I believe the young African American leaders who are leading us into the future are asking for. They are demanding more Black history, and in Anne Arundel County, they're getting it. So I want to thank our school system for working with the Cultural Resources team at Office in Plan and Zoning, and our partners at the state level, and the Arts Council, and so many in county government, and the taxpayers of county government for supporting all of this work. You can go to aacounty.org, African American Heritage, and you will find links to updates on this program as the research is being done, as well as a recently posted series of interviews from the civil rights era about Black leisure and recreation that are fascinating. I stayed up way too late at night watching these interviews. And you will also see a number of other great projects that the team has put together on Black history in Anne Arundel County. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We truly are making Anne Arundel County the best place for all.
Good morning. I'm Carol Benson, the Executive Director of the Four Rivers Heritage Area, soon to be known as the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area, here in Anne Arundel County. I'm so pleased to be part of your event launching the wonderful project called Persistence, Purpose, and Preservation, the Rosenwald Schools of Anne Arundel County. This is such an important project to us in our heritage area and to the entire county, and I congratulate the Galesville Community Center organization for spearheading and directing this very important project. Thank you, and enjoy your event.
Good morning. My name is Tim Leahy. I serve as the chair of the Four Rivers Heritage Area, and I bring you greetings from our board. We're very excited to be a part of this important project and can't wait to see the outcome. I'm following two great speakers who already, I think, set the theme for what preservation is about, at least in my mind, and that's telling the stories of our cultural history. And we're happy to do that and make sure that in the future, these stories resonate with our children and our grandchildren, and so the stories are not forgotten, and that we learn from the lessons of those stories. Steuart already said, this is a story that has to do with our local community as well as the whole nation, and therefore I think it's of national significance and should be viewed across the whole country. We're very proud to support this through our funding, our grants, and as a citizen, you should be happy to know that we do our best to focus our money on these worthy projects in local communities, and this is a perfect example of that. I want to thank both the state Senator Elfreth and the county Steuart Pittman for supporting our programs and all of our community. So thank you very much, and I can't wait, and we're so proud to be a part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in today's program and for allowing me to take part in the Anne Arundel County Rosenwald Initiative. I was very fortunate to learn about Rosenwald Schools while I was living in Anne Arundel County working at the Banneker Douglas Museum. Thanks to several volunteers, I kept hearing the phrase Rosenwald Schools, and they kept talking about how these were places where they attended school or where they taught, but I didn't really know what that meant. And I started looking into Julius Rosenwald and discovered that he and I both grew up in Springfield, Illinois, which is more dominantly known as the land of Lincoln. In fact, Julius Rosenwald grew up in a house that was directly across the street from the Lincoln home. However, his family did not move into that home until about a year or so after the Lincolns had left to go to Washington. Julius Rosenwald grew up in Springfield until he was 17, at which point he left high school and moved to New York, where he began working almost as an apprentice under his uncles with their national retail chain, Hammerslow Brothers. His father, in fact, ran a branch of the Hammerslow Brothers store in Springfield, Illinois, and then went into business for himself, which he ended up eventually selling and moving to Chicago after Julius had paired up with a few enterprising retailers who were not quite so successful, by the names of Sears and Roebuck. And with Julius Rosenwald working diligently with the Sears and Roebuck team, he was able to build the retailer into the massive enterprise that we know today. And Julius Rosenwald was one that was very philanthropic in mind and decided to celebrate his 50th birthday. He was going to make a sizable charitable donation to a variety of organizations and causes, including African American schooling, and starting with the small schools in Alabama, and then growing into this giant project at the suggestion of Booker T. Washington that ended up funding nearly 5,000 schools all over the southern United States. His initial donation in 1912 was $687,500. In today's money, that's the equivalent to a little more than $19.5 million. And that was just the first donation. He then went on, after the success of the Rosenwald School program, to continue to build that program out and fund in many more schools, teachers' homes, and the impact that he had on the United States was tremendous. And I look forward to being able to share more of that with you through this project. So thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to working with everyone.
I am Dale Glenwick Green, Professor of Architecture and Historic Preservation at Morgan State University, Maryland's flagship HBCU, where my sixth great-grandfather, Reverend Samuel Green Sr., was the visionary founder in 1867, a formerly enslaved Marylander, whom in 1857 was caught, arrested, and sentenced to 10 years in prison for being in possession of the Uncle Tom's Cabin, an anti-slavery publication. I know all too well the importance of our historic African-American schools. My very ancestry, my practice, and my role within the academy are all intertwined. My maternal ancestry, my seventh great grandfather, Bishop Alexander Wayman, who was consecrated bishop during the Maryland Emancipation Proclamation, was a founding trustee of Wilberforce University in 1856, one of the third HBCUs to be founded in America. Our family also founded in 1867 on the eastern shore of Maryland, the Denton Colored School. I had the distinct honor and privilege to serve under Governor O'Malley's administration and Governor Hogan's administration, and I was previously the former chairman of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, where for 8 years I was engaged in statewide preservation of many of Maryland's historic Rosenwald schools. I'm a partner and an architect in the fifth oldest Black architectural firm, Salton Campbell Brick and Associates, a professional corporation, where I had the distinct privilege to restore the historic Ridgely Rosenwald School, built in 1923 in Prince George's County. Award-winning, documentary featured, and widely published. I'm able to participate now in the restoration of the Henry Highland Garnett School, the Chief Justice Thurgood Marshall School in Baltimore City, which is on its way to becoming a national park. I'm restoring the Haverty Grace Colored School in Harford County and the Elkton Colored School in Cecil County, where in 1926, the Elkton Colored School was improved and expanded by the Rosenwald Fund to a 5-room teacher type school. Indeed, the Rosenwald School legacy is remarkable and significant. The architectural legacy of Rosenwald schools, while not widely celebrated, is uniquely intertwined with the legacy of our nation's first formally trained Black architect, Robert Robinson Taylor, a Massachusetts Institute of Technology graduate in 1892 from the nation's first school of architecture. As a result of Robert Robinson Taylor's thesis on schools and his prominence as the first formally trained Black architect in America, he was recruited to Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, by none other than Dr. Booker T. Washington. In 1912, Dr. Booker T. Washington of Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, approached Julius Rosenwald with the idea to pilot a rural school building program for African American children in the South. Robert Robinson Taylor, the Black architect, designed the Rosenwald school plans. These state-of-the-art school plans were published and became models for rural schools all across the South. Newer plans incorporated some of the Tuskegee elements that Robert Robinson Taylor had designed, while other plans relied on the current local research throughout the rural South to inform those schools. Gabled roofs and one-story structures became the character-defining features and factors from the Tuskegee plans that Robert Robinson Taylor had devised. The banks of windows along one side of the building was a hallmark of the Rosenwald plans and thus became the character-defining features of Rosenwald schools throughout the nation. Beyond its brick and mortar, embodied in its very culture, Rosenwald schools are an example of African-American initiatives for equality, self-determination, and white philanthropic support. Tangible reminders of the obstacles African Americans had to overcome to obtain an education in the Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction South. Exemplifies the resilience that the African American community sustained in offering educational opportunities to its children. We must continue to document the Rosenwald schools. In doing so, we preserve the legacy of those that overcame extraordinary odds, intense opposition, everyday discrimination, and kept fighting anyway. We must ignite conversations about our heritage and be emblazoned by our faith. In the words of Langston Hughes, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it explode? I can hear my paternal sixth grade grandfather, Reverend Samuel Green Sr. say, "A dream too long deferred is a dream no more," as he founded Morgan State University, now a national treasure. I can hear my maternal seventh grade grandfather, Bishop Alexander Williams, say, "I was born by a river, the Tuckahoe River to be exact, but I knew a change was going to come," when he became the seventh bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. We must discover the power of our agency, see our ability, and press towards the mark, validating the very ideals of the historic Rosenwald School legacy. The Rosenwald School Building Program played a prominent and pivotal role in the education of African Americans in the early 20th century. As a result of a distinguished partnership between Dr. Booker T. Washington, the Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, and Julius Rosenwald, president of the Sears and Roebuck Company, the Rosenwald Fund provided matching grants for more than 5,000 schools, shops, and teacher residences built in 15 southern states between 1917 and 1931. The schools became obsolete in 1954 with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that outlawed segregation in public education. Many of the schools were abandoned and demolished, and their invaluable contributions forgotten. Despite their critical role in the education of a large portion of the Southern population, Rosenwald schools are a largely unfamiliar component of the educational history of the United States. As a result and a consequence, the National Trust for Historic Preservation named Rosenwald schools to its 2002 list of the most endangered sites. More recently, Rosenwald schools were designated as one of the first of the Trust's national treasures, continuing their commitment to the preservation. Rosenwald schools in Maryland, of the more than 5,000 Rosenwald program buildings constructed, 156 of the schools and ancillary structures were built in Maryland, and 53 of those structures remain today. The Anne Arundel County Rosenwald schools included Annapolis Neck, Brownswoods, Bristol, Camp Parole, Churchton, Crossroads, Freeton, Friendship, Galesville, Galilee, Jones, Lothian 1, Lothian 2, Magathie, Marley Neck, Mayo, Mount Zion, Pumphrey, Robinson, Shadyside, Skidmore, and Stanton. The Anne Arundel County Rosenwald School documentary project has helped to generate publicity, which in turn has created awareness of the national importance of Rosenwald schools. The Rosenwald schools played in the educational and civic lives of communities throughout the South and right in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. This cannot be underestimated. Preserving these Rosenwald schools and their historic structures and returning them to be valuable gathering places is important to our nation's history and the communities where they are located. both worthy goals that I am proud to support and to be engaged in.
Thank you, Professor Green. Professor Green served alongside of me when I was chair in the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. And today we both are chairing the Mount Clair plantation in Baltimore. Good afternoon. I am Lindra Marshall Nee Pratt. I'm the project coordinator for this project. Before I begin my task for today, I would like to take a moment to personally thank the project team for their professionalism and support. Had it not been for them, we would not have been able to bring this event to you all virtually. I know Mr. Smoot will not be happy if I ask everyone to stand because he is behind the scene operating this his equipment. But I'd like to thank Gertrude Mako, project manager, Heather Ertz, material culture and interpretation, C. Jane Cox, archaeology, but I think we're changing her title to cultural resources, Professor Dale Green, architecture, documentary film team, that is none other than Mr. Anthony Smoot, Heather Ertz, and yours truly. Genealogists, yours truly. Information technology, Mr. Roger Marshall Sr. Or historian, yours truly. Photography, Mr. Valentino Owens Sr. Videographer, Mr. Anthony Smoot, and artist Barry Gay. Thank you so much. I am so glad each of you join us on today for this Rosenwald School project launch. I especially would like to thank the volunteers that stepped up early in the game, and for my family, I have a large family, who's attending today virtually, including those from California, Alabama, West Virginia, and Virginia. This project has been a brainchild of mine for over 60 years. Unlike my parents, other relatives, Congressman John Lewis, Maya Angelou, and many of you that's on the virtual event today, I did not have the honor to attend a Rosenwald school. Instead, my family resided in the Lothian School that my paternal grandfather and grandmother purchased immediately after it closed, and it became shelter while my parents was building a home. My older sister and I were fascinated of the architecture accents, especially the large windows and the size of the school. Later, I would gain a yearning to learn more. When I entered high school, I shared my fascination with my teacher. On Thursdays, he would drive me to Sears Roebuck Company in Annapolis so I could sit in on managerial meetings and learn more about Julius Rosenwald and the retail business. As time progressed, I continued studying about the schools and learned more about Booker T. Washington, who was the mastermind behind making these schoolhouses. While I continued to study, my husband and I, Gertrude Maker, and so many others, participated in the Common Threads program and assisted Dr. Joan Gaither, Terry Passan, Heather Ertz, Lisa Robbins, and C. Jane Cox, and so many others in teaching students about the history of the schools and creating documentary story quilts. All of my previous activities prepared me for this day. to begin the real work, the research, the study, and preparing a documentary film. Persistence, purpose, and preservation. This project will result in a documentary film that is set to premiere in 2023. The film will include the history of each school or interviews with former students, teachers, school staff, former administrators, civil rights activists, landowners, and community members with connections to the 23 schools that was built in Anne Arundel County between 1921 and 1932. Before we get there, a lot of research or interviews and transcriptions will have to take place. Your help is needed, and we hope you consider volunteering for this historic project, either by working on a committee, providing an or interview or testimony, or contributing some sort of memorabilia. We are so excited for Ms. Katira West and the Anne Arundel County School Board and the local churches who have also joined this project. All participants will be credited in this documentary. Did you or anyone you know attend a school for African American students between 1921 until they closed in the 1950s? I will now share the list of the support team to give you a better understanding of our needs. They include advisors, archivists, artists, digital imagery, videographers, historians, or interview assistants, and the list goes on and on. Please share your story with us, or if you know someone that attended a Rosenwald school and would like to share their story as a part of this exciting project, please let us know. Well, that pretty much sums up my role today in a nutshell. Thank you again to all of our participants and project team members. If you haven't volunteered just yet and wishes to do so, please let us know. All volunteers, again, will be credited for your work. I'll leave you with one of Booker T. Washington's famous quotes. Education is not what a person is able to hold in his head, so much as it is what a person is able to find. Persistence, purpose, preservation. We're going to remain persistent. We're going to fulfill this purpose, and we are going to preserve the history of the Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County. Persistence, purpose, preservation. And as President Obama often say at the end of his speeches, let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lindra. That was a lovely description of the project. My name is Jane Cox, and I'm the Historic Preservation Administrator for the Office of Planning and Zoning. And our county preservation program is so thrilled to be involved with this program. This is actually, we're well into 10 years of collaboration with our friends here in Galesville. Began as colleagues, but now I call all of them dear friends. And I'm excited to see this episode of a new research initiative that follows on on some of our amazing successes. Saving the Wilson House from demolition, the restoration that's ongoing at the Hot Sox ball field. These are sites that when we started beating the drum to be able to protect them, people didn't really recognize why they were important and what they meant to the local community. Most recently, we've been outreaching, working with the community to help restore the Ebenezer African American Historic Cemetery. And so this is really the next chapter in what I a community I absolutely adore, and I'm really excited to take this next step with the Rosenwald project. The goal of our historic preservation program is to ensure that our historic inventory is representative. These are the tools that we use. Our inventories are the tools that we can use in county government to protect historic resources. And this inventory and our notion of what is important in history is always expanding. We're always adding data to this. And I'll give you a little example. In 2009, when the first recognition of Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County came about, there were 23 identified as being constructed under the Rosenwald program, and at that time 11 were recognized as still being standing. Some of the research that's happened in just the last 2 years has found that there are actually 2 that have been hidden underneath residential structures. Nobody remembered that they were there, the Brownswood School in Broadneck and the Pumphrey School in North Anne Arundel County. So our program has recently reached out to those property owners, shared with them the exciting news that they have an historic property. One was very happy, the other we haven't heard back from yet. And what I'm really looking forward to is the work that is going to go into this project, the research, the documentary, is going to help me do a better job at what I'm asked to do at the county. So I'm really excited about this work. You know, we're preserving not just the physical buildings, but as important in historic preservation is remembering the communities, the places, and the people that go into it. Historic preservation is really about the stories, the places, and the communities. So I am so looking forward to continuing to work with my dear friends in Galesville, and look forward to whatever county support we can provide to help the project move forward. And thank you for helping me do my job. So thank you very much.
Hello everyone at the Galesville Community Center. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today to give you brief greetings on behalf of your event, Persistence, Purpose, and Preservation, regarding Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County. It is such a valid and vital effort that you have undertaken, because you've got to be persistent to find all of the bits of information that are out there that people may not even know are important. You've got to find and define your purpose, which you have done by being there today, and you've got to have a way to preserve it so that it's not lost after you've put all the effort into this day and to the days which you cannot even foresee at this moment, but you've planned before this moment to keep these records where future generations will also be proud of them as you are proud of them today. Thank you again. This is Chris Haley at the Maryland State Archives. Hello everyone at the Galesville Community Center. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today to give you brief greetings on behalf of your event, Persistence, Purpose, and Preservation, regarding Rosenwald Schools in Anne Arundel County. It is such a valid and vital effort that you have undertaken, because you've got to be persistent to find all of the bits of information that are out there that people may not even know are important. You've got to find and define your purpose, which you have done by being there today, and you've got to have a way to preserve it so that it's not lost after you've put all the effort into this day and to the days which you cannot even foresee at this moment, but you've planned before this moment to keep these records where future generations will also be proud of them as you are proud of them today. Thank you again. This is Chris Haley at the Maryland State Archives.
So I'm here now to give the public call to action to invite everyone to get involved in this fabulous project. We are looking for people who were both students and teachers and staff at the Rosenwald Schools throughout Anne Arundel County. We are looking for photographs. We are looking for paperwork. We are looking for objects, desks, chairs, lights, doorknobs, keys, things, clothing that was worn to go to school, to teach in the schools, anything that is related to the schools. creates a bigger picture of those places as we preserve the buildings, as we preserve the memories. And certainly the memories are the biggest things we're very much looking for are those oral histories with people who attended the schools, who taught at the schools, and who worked at the schools. So, and then we invite you to join us. We are looking, as you heard from Lindra, a cadre of people to assist us with this, with the research, with the outreach, with the transcription of the oral histories. This really is a community project, and we very much look forward to you all in joining us. So the next question is on the next slide, is how to volunteer. We have created a Google form, which is will be in the chat, as well as there's a QR code that is available both on the Facebook page for the Galesville Community Center and will be available throughout as we move in the community. And all you need to do with that QR code is use the camera on your cell phone to focus in on that QR code, and it will pop up the Google form, and you just fill out that form. And an example of that form is on the next slide. You can see what that will look like, and it'll ask for your contact information, your email, your phone number, how you would like us to which of those mediums you would like us to contact you with, as well as what school you'd like to be involved with, or multiple schools you'd like to be involved with, and that's on the next slide. An example of what that looks like on the form. So you'll see all of our 23 Rosenwald schools throughout the county that you have an opportunity to work with. And on the next slide, what do you do if you know someone who did go to the school or taught there, or you have some of those objects, or you have a textbook, or you have a report card? We really want those report cards. Again, use that same form to put that information down. What that is enabling us to do is just get in contact with you and to pursue that lead for us. So again, use the form, use the QR code to get to the form or the link, and this will all be on the Galesville Facebook page as well as the county's page for information. Next slide has if you have those objects and information, you can see how you can just click easily on those examples. Super easy form. I hate hard forms, so this one's super, super easy. So the next question is, on the next slide, is how do I stay informed about the project? The easiest way for us to inform you all is on the Galesville Community Center Facebook page. It's quick and easy for us to get to. The county will also have the information on their African American history page, as you heard Jane say. But really, like us, follow us on the Galesville Community Center Facebook page, and we'll put updates there as we move forward. So at this time, are there any questions that we can answer from the public? Great. So we're going to move forward with thanking our funders. At this time, I'd really like to thank our incredible support from the state of Maryland through the Maryland Heritage Area Program, as well as our local heritage area, the Four Rivers Heritage Area, which is soon to be the Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area. We'd also like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Maryland Humanities Council here at the state level. And we'd also like to thank the Anne Arundel County support from the Arts Council, from the Cultural Resources Division, and from the Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And with that, I would like to invite Ms. Gertrude back to the podium.
First of all, I'd like to give sincere thanks to our team. They've been very dedicated. I won't tell you how many hours we've been here this week preparing for today, but it was well worth it. And thanks to everybody that's on Facebook Live, and we do invite you to participate in this project. Earlier, Genevieve Kaplan mentioned the Rosenwald Park, and many do not know that there were 3 nominations in the state of Maryland. There was one in Anne Arundel County, and the one in Anne Arundel County that was nominated for off-site visitor center is the Galesville Community Center. So we are very proud, we work hard, and again, thank you for attending today, and we invite you to participate. Thank you.